Page 27, Minuet. We're throwing a few new things at you here, so let's just take these a little at a time and talk about them. At the top of the page, they're talking about a dotted half note. We already know what a half note looks like, I hope. We've been getting them, so hopefully you know what they are. And a dotted half note is simply a half note with a dot behind it. Duh, okay. So what's the point in all that? Well, there's a rule for that. And that is the dot gets half the value of the note. If you can just remember that. Because any note can be dotted. Any note. Seriously, any note. A whole note can be dotted. Just remember that the dot gets half the value of the note. So however many counts the note gets, the dot gets half of that. You just put them together, and that's the total length of the dotted note. So if a quarter note gets 1 count, then the half note's going to get 2. So a dotted half note would get 3 counts, because 2 for the half note, and then half of that is 1, and you add them together and get a calculator. I don't know. It's 3 counts. In 4/4 time, or whenever the bottom number of the time signatures is a 4, then the dotted half note gets 3 counts. Because the time signature could be other things, where a half note isn't getting 2 counts, it gets something else. Well, it doesn't matter. The dot gets half the value of it, whatever it is. Another way, and I think a simpler way of looking at it, is just remember that if there's 2 quarter notes and a half note, then the dotted half note is 3 of it. So the dotted note is 3 of whatever the smaller note is. So it's like, well, we've had quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes so far. Well, then a dotted whole note is the same as 3 half notes. A dotted half note is the same as 3 quarter notes. A dotted quarter note is the same as 3 something else that we haven't had yet, but we'll get there. That's another way of looking at it. Also, this is a minuet, and that is a type of piece of music. And they talk about it a little bit. It's a type of dance. It's kind of a fancy, high aristocratic, royalty type, hoity-toity dance. It's usually choreographed. There's a set moves to it, and there's different kinds of minuets, different kinds of dances. There are different moves that you can do to a minuet, but they're usually choreographed. A minuet or a waltz is in 3/4 time, pretty much every time, without exception. It's the same as 4/4 time, except there's only 3 counts in a measure, not 4. But you're still counting quarter notes, and that's the only difference. As I said before, in time signatures, if you understand the numbers and how they work in a time signature, it doesn't matter what the numbers are, you can figure it out. So the top number tells you how far to count, 3. The bottom number tells you what you're counting. That's nice to know. That's quarter notes. So they're the same as 3 quarter notes in every measure. It has that waltz feel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, minuets have the same feel. Now, look on the second line, about in the middle, or it's actually measure 9. You see those repeat signs? You have a repeat sign at the end of measure 8, and a reverse repeat sign at the beginning of measure 9. They're together. They share the same thick bar. And you'll see this sometimes in music, so don't let it throw you. The first repeat sign sends you back to the beginning, and finally they didn't give you a reverse repeat sign at the beginning. Finally, you never needed one to begin with. But it helped you to learn what they were, so okay. Anyway, here you'd go back to the beginning, and you always only repeat once. Unless there's a note in the music to tell you to repeat or to play a certain number of times, you only do it once, repeat once. So the second time you play it, then you ignore that repeat sign and go on. At the end, there's a repeat sign that sends you back, and remember the rule, you go back to the previous reverse repeat sign, and if there isn't one, you go back to the beginning. Here, there is a reverse repeat sign at measure 9, so at the end, you'd repeat back to measure 9, and you play that part again, and you're done. So this is twice as long as it looks, because you're playing everything twice. We're using the G in the left hand. Remember, note G, we're working on that, the top space and that stuff. Yeah. So let's go through and make sure we got the counting and the notes and all. And again, I'm going to take both hands at the same time, because the only thing the left hand is doing is a G. So the right hand starts on E here. Put put you here. That's in C position. The left hand is starting on third finger here, here. So you're really in this position, whatever that is. Actually, because you're only playing one note in the left hand, you can play that note with any note or any finger you want. But we'll stick with 3. That's what they're suggesting. That's fine. And we just make sure we got the notes and the rhythm. They're all quarter notes. Just make sure that get it. Then you get to measure 8, the dotted half note. Remember, that gets 3 counts. So 1, 2, 3, and then you go on or repeat, whatever you're going to do. Let's go to measure 9. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Because half notes get 2 counts and a quarter note gets 1. They put the counting in there to help you out. You go through and make sure you can play the notes and the rhythms okay. Once you're comfortable with that, then we go back and add the articulation. Well, there's a couple here. We have accents and we have slurs both. So in the second measure, you see that curved line, that's a slur. Connect those notes. It's not really needed because I would connect them anyway. You see, if there's nothing given, no slur or nothing indicated in the music, typically we will just connect it. That didn't used to be that way. There used to be, if there was nothing in the music, you would slightly disconnect every note. That's why you'll hear a lot of music back in the 1700s and before. They disconnect the notes a lot. That's what they're doing. But today we connect the notes. Now you can't connect repeated notes, but you do the best you can. Otherwise, we just connect everything. So, why are some of them slurred and some of them not? Oh, that's a good question. Don't know really, because I don't know what they're thinking when they did that. Sometimes they mess up. But technically speaking, if there's nothing given, you can do what you want. It's up to you and your interpretation. And we'll have to talk more about interpreting music as we go through the book. But the idea is, if there's nothing given, it's up to you. You get to know the piece and get into the music, then you decide how you want to interpret it. And if you want to separate the notes, just separate them, or some of the notes, or no, it's up to you. And in the third measure here, there's nothing. Now they give you a slur. I'd connect all those notes anyway. Remember, because I said on a slurs, you lift up before and after a slur. Well, there's exceptions to that. And I'll talk a lot about those exceptions as we go through the book. My point is, there's nothing given on the other measures. It's up to you whether you separate them or not. If you want to connect measure 3 and measure 4, connect this, go right ahead. I see nothing wrong with it. Now when you get to measure 9, those half notes have accents. And that means you're going to play them a little louder. That's all. And connect it. Now here I would separate the slurs here. But I'll leave that up to you and your teacher, how you're going to do these slurs in this piece. Now on these accents, when you play these notes, collapse the wrist a little bit. Don't stiffen up and go, You come down, collapse the wrist a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit on it. Stay flexible. You're using just a lot more weight to play them louder. Just put a lot more weight on them and let them go down. But relax as you're doing this. Don't tense up. Once you have that, then we have the dynamics. You have MF, and then they say P on repeat. Now, most of the time in music, you would see an MF-P. That's it. And that tells you the first time you play it by the first dynamic and the second time you play it by the second. So the first time we play it, we're going to play it mezzo forte or medium loud, sort of loud. And then when we repeat it, we're going to play it soft. It's like an echo. So that's whatever you think sort of loud is. Not loud, just sort of loud. And then the repeat is soft, whatever you think that is. And measure 9, that's loud here. Now that makes the accented notes very loud because the accent takes it up a notch. So the accented notes are going to be very loud, and the other notes are going to be loud. And then I'll measure 11 there at the last line. That's just loud. And an accent very loud. Like so. I disagree with it. I really do, because it's out of context for a minuet. You would not get very loud on a minuet. Minuet is a nice, pleasant thing. I mean, they can get loud, but not. So I really kind of question their loud there. I would think measure 9, it would have been better to leave that at MF, mezzo, because that would make the accent notes loud. And I have a feeling that's really what they wanted. They wanted the accent notes loud. So you could take from the last half of this, take it down a little bit. You don't have to play it quite so loud. When you first learn it, you play it the way it's written. And then after you know it, then you say, well, what do I need to adjust? If it's an arrangement, you rearrange it. If it's classical music and it's the way the composer wrote it, don't change nothing. Do it the way they wrote it. I'll get into that more as we go through the book. Then finally the speed, moderately slow. Well, think, what's it look like if a person is dancing a nice 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. About that speed, I don't know. You'll have to decide. I play by feel, so I don't have a speed. It's just, what do I feel it should be? Not a fast minuet. No, and you don't want it too slow on a piano. That just drags. It's got to flow. That's too slow. Ugh. So it's got to be somewhere in there, but it's on the slow side of the middle. Yeah? No. With no pedal in this, we don't need pedal, that would just mess it up, so just leave the pedal out. I like to play it with you very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do any dynamics. I'll give us 3 counts because it's in 3/4 time. There's only 3 beats to 1 ready, go, and then we go slowly. 1 ready, go. Repeat. Two, three. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Repeat. 2, 2, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, off. There's a duet at the bottom of this. I'd like to play that, and you play what you just played, but I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Now again, I need you to go up an octave on the keyboard. Remember, we talked about octaves before. It's an interval of an eighth. You just pretend middle C, which is here, pretend it's up here in this C, and play it all up here. So instead of here, you're up here. Play it all up there, and it'll sound better with the duet part. I'll give us 3 counts. Let's try it. 1, ready, go.